Hello, artists and fellow ducklings. So you guys wanted an update on the things I found in my investigations after Clip Studio announced that they would be adding an AI tool to their art software. While Clip Studio is no stranger to AI, this time they decided to make the exact same mistake that DeviantArt did not even like a month ago and create their tool using none other than Stable Diffusion. And this is where I'm going to try my best not to veer off course too far because the rabbit hole goes pretty deep. I highly suggest you watch this entire video to get a full grasp on just how devastating this technology can be, not just to you, but also your friends and family. So strap yourself in and get ready for this roller coaster. First off, due to the nature of what I'm about to share, I am disclosing that I am not a lawyer. I am a mallard duck girl VTuber who is sharing publicly available information that has been compiled into an easy to digest video. This is not legal advice. I highly recommend consulting with a lawyer if you have been affected by the things I'm about to discuss in this video because it is going to get dark. With that out of the way, I will start with explaining a bit of the backstory behind AI-generated art and why this should be a concern to everyone and not just artists. Stable Diffusion is an AI trained on the Lion-5B dataset, which has over 5.85 billion images scraped from the open web. The AI uses a diffusion technique that uses existing data and cannot create things that it hasn't seen before. It could be things like logos. If it doesn't have it in the database, it cannot recreate it. Already, this is a recipe for disaster because as it currently stands, the dataset contains a lot of things that probably shouldn't be used to train an AI, like medical records. Yeah, medical records. Or, I don't want to say this, but I'm going to say this. Pictures of children. But I'm going to get to that shortly. Just hang on for a second. So before I get to the ethics of it, one of the major issues of AI like Stable Diffusion is the fact that it processes like used art, like things that are already out on the web and photos. And it like the process that it uses to create this art has been questioned as legal. Artists have overwhelmingly been against AI for a number of reasons and have actively searched for reasons to be upset, besides the possibility that AI art has the potential to displace a lot of artists from their livelihoods and therefore source of income and security. The primary argument has been that artists did not consent to have their work used to train AI, and that it is a form of copyright infringement or plagiarism. Now, when it comes to copyright, most content creators, particularly ones in the video content space and the ones who live stream on YouTube or Twitch, know that there are a lot of complications within copyright law. While I am not a lawyer, and none of what I am about to say is legal advice, I will do my best to try to break down some of the thoughts that have been thrown around on this issue. Normally, copyright protects holders of intellectual property or their own creations or art from would-be thieves. As it turns out, however, just because there is a copyright on something, it doesn't mean that it can not be used by someone else. Take reaction streamers, for example, who may react to copyrighted videos. This is an example of fair use. They're using it to create fun content, but not necessarily using it for monetary gain. Fair use is kind of what it sounds like. It's using someone else's work in a fair way. This can include transforming the work in some way, like when someone speeds up or slows down a song and posts it on YouTube or another website. It can also include adding commentary or criticism. Parody falls under the fair use umbrella. Family Guy, South Park, and The Simpsons all fall under this type of fair use. Education like this video can fall under fair use, and I've already made use of this several times in this video. So why is fair use so important to consider? Well, it could be argued that AI like Stable Diffusion actually make use of fair use by design. It transforms the original images from art and from photographs that are in its dataset. However, fair use doesn't cover everything. In an article from O.com, the author states, quote, 1. The purpose and character of your use of the derivative work. The factor looks at two things: how your work incorporates the original work and how your derivative work is used. Editorial works that comment on the original work or are transformative, more about this below, weigh in favor of fair use. Commercial or for-profit use weighs against fair use. Educational, editorial, and non-commercial uses weight in favor of fair use. The amount of substantiality of the portion of the original work you've incorporated into your derivative work, that's on number 3. Using more than necessary weighs against fair use. Using only as much of the original as you need to accomplish your purpose weighs in favor of fair use. And then 4, the effect of the use of derivative works like yours upon the potential market for copyrighted work. If your type of use competes with the economic market or the potential economic market, think of like fan art, for example, or fan comics. For the original, that weighs against fair use. If your work criticizes the original, however, any negative economic effect that criticism might have does not count against fair use. End quote. So what this really means is basically there are limitations to fair use. If an artist found their work that was used to create, say, a new music album cover, right? Like, I'm sure you've seen, like, on Fiverr and other freelance sites, you can, like, commission someone to, like, create all different kinds of things. And I actually saw a YouTube video once on using AI art generators to create music album covers and post it as a gig on Fiverr. This is where it starts to get kind of into the murky gray area as far as fair use is concerned. Basically, if a new music album, like, cover was created, and if it resembled their own art very closely, they could potentially argue in court that the use of their art in the AI does not fall under fair use and they are owed damages. So this is kind of vague because people who are using AI art generators right now probably have no idea about any of this. And they probably, if they did see a work that the AI produced that looked very close to something that was already out and produced, that it pulled data from, they could potentially find themselves in some legal hot water. Again, not a lawyer, but it's kind of something really important to think about. The argument for this kind of situation may not hold up, however, if the ruling finds that there's not sufficient likeness in the end image to resemble the artist's piece of art that they are talking about. So what all this is meant to say, basically, is that fair use is a huge gray area, and due to this, paired with another issue that I'm about to get into, the case against AI-generated art only gets murkier. So, in a TechCrunch article from August of 2016, people, there was already trouble with AI legality in the social media space. LinkedIn filed a suit against a group of 100 unnamed people who used bots to, quote, harvest user profiles from its website, end quote. The lawsuit prompted people to wonder how bot use should be policed. After all, LinkedIn, and I'm sure other companies and websites, want some level of bot use. Search engines like Google use bots to index websites, which of course helps them be found in search results of users. LinkedIn lost the suit in 2019. So, in another TechCrunch article, this one from February of 2021, the author explains that a New York-based company called Clearview AI violated Canadian privacy laws after collecting over 3 billion with AB photos of people's faces without their express permission from various social media websites. Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter all were reported to have sent cease and desist letters to Clearview AI. I wonder why. So clearly, Clearview AI clearly doesn't seem to have boundaries, as they went so far as to create facial recognition technology and claim on Fox Business that their company's technology was, quote, strictly for law enforcement, end quote, while quietly sharing their tech with companies like Walmart, Coinbase, and more. Totally just for law enforcement. Totally. Can you see where I'm going here? And that leads me to the point I made a while ago about Stable Diffusion and things that probably should not be used to train AI art bots. In my last video, I covered the fact that someone found her face and a medical record release form that was meant to be private information. Mind you, the procedure that prompted the release form happened all the way back in 2013, and the surgeon who performed the procedure died from cancer in 2018. So these AIs can dig pretty far. Per the Ars Technica article, they discovered thousands more of similar patient medical record photos in the dataset, quote, each of which may have a similar questionable ethical or legal status, many of which have likely been integrated into popular image synthesis models that companies like Midjourney and Stability AI offer as a commercial service, end quote. I took a leap of faith myself and went to haveibeentrained.com and checked for my own artwork and pictures, and luckily I didn't find anything of my own that turned up in the Lyron-5B dataset. However, what I did find was much more morbid to consider. I won't show it here for the privacy of the people who have ended up in the dataset, but I found actual pictures of children scraped from family blogs. Not just social media or stock photo websites. Family blogs that haven't been touched since half a decade ago in some cases. I've even found newborn baby photos in the dataset. I have a hard time believing that they contacted the family of every single photo that they have in their dataset for permission to collect photos of their children. If it sounds like I'm upset, I'm very upset. It scares me that my nieces, or any of my family for that matter, might be in the dataset without their express consent to have their faces used in a technology crafted for commercial use. It is a blatant violation of boundaries and privacy. If we allow something like this to take information indiscriminately from the open web, we are saying that it is okay to use someone else's likeness for your content, so you can be monetized in art. Who does quality control on the data scraped from the web? I looked through Stability AI's website and sent an email inquiry using the address displayed on the website, but have not yet received any response, like any kind of email response, even an auto reply. So I can't confirm their stance on some of the questions that I have regarding the ethics of this. But what I do know is I checked their privacy policy page, and the closest thing that I could find to protecting the privacy and rights of children specifically was this passage that I will show you here on California residents. Just California. And they would only ensure that their data would not be publicly displayed in the service, but that they can't guarantee that all the data would be fully removed from all of their systems, like say their backup. In fact, I can't even begin to express how worrisome the lack of explanation on how they comply with the GDPR is. The short version of what it is it's the strictest privacy and security law in the entire world. And it doesn't just apply to Europe, by the way. The GDPR has a lot of restrictions and rules that you must comply with if you process any personal information from European residents or citizens. This includes pseudo-anonymous data in some situations, which I could see easily happening with Stable Diffusion. I'll show some of the rules and regulations on screen here. But the point that I'm making is that these AIs, like Stable Diffusion, are in a massive legal gray area here. Besides the ethics, they aren't transparent about how they are using people's data, and based on the lack of disclosure or even reassurance that they are fully compliant with legislation in the areas of the world that they've scraped data from. If they are found to not be compliant with the GDPR and the ruling finds that they have made less severe infractions, they could face fines of up to 10 million euros or 2% of the company's worldwide annual revenue from the previous financial year, and would be forced to pay whichever one was higher. If it's found that they made more severe infractions, they could face up to 20 million euros or 4% of their worldwide revenue from the preceding financial year, whichever one is higher. If we want to crush unethical AI, we will need to work as a community and spread awareness about the issues that we are facing. It's not just about art. It's about protecting our right to privacy, especially when it comes to more sensitive things like children. I was unable to find any literature on the Stability AI website aside from the notice about Californian minors that has any mention of how they protect and use the information of minors or people under the age of 18 or 13 in the case of COPPA laws. Blow this up. Tell your friends and family, do not use Stable Diffusion or any unethical AI bots. Boycott companies that use unethical AI. Only if we act together can we make a difference. The future of online privacy depends on it. Recently, Clip Studio publicly announced that they would be adding Stable Diffusion unmodified to their software. That means their dataset too, folks. DeviantArt also created DreamUp, which made use of the same exact technology and dataset. To see what happened, check out this playlist to see some of the unwanted chaos that has plagued our community. Lucky out.